Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow.
The Gratitude Project challenged us to explore the power of gratitude. Together, we discovered gratitude can heal, motivate, bond, and ultimately allow a person to look back on his or her life with a totally new perspective.
I never realized the Gratitude Project would change me. It wasn't just about art and writing, it was about the experience over time. 6 interview participants shared with us their wisdom, stories, and personal feelings of gratitude. I have new respect for my elders and a new perspective on the world.
Lieutenant Colonel Robert J. Friend is a Tuskegee Airman and United States veteran. He served during World War II and the Korean and Vietnam Wars. When we asked him about his greatest challenge, I thought he would tell us about facing racism. Instead, he reminded us about the most painful part of war.
Actually, the challenge is trying to make adjustments when people were lost. We did 4 pilots to a tent. Pretty soon we lost Adcock. Dixon, we lost him. He signed to go put somebody else into that spot. It's hard to accept the loss of a friend.
At 97 years old, Lieutenant Colonel Friend is a living history lesson. He reminds us that citizenship is not only a responsibility, it is a privilege.
When I look at a class like this, I said, future's okay. The world's gonna be in good hands. I can see that.
Mr. Nguyen served as an interpreter for the United States Special Forces during the Vietnam War. In April 1975, he was given the chance to escape to America. His decision to stay behind with his family caused him to be put into a prisoner of war camp. It was 3 years before he could escape.
Finally, I had to use a very, very small riverboat. I drove it all the way from Vietnam to Thailand. And I said, remain upstairs.
We learned valuable lessons about faith, devotion to family, and the importance of avoiding war.
People in the world belong to whatever country, whatever race, white you are, yellow you are, black you are, whatever. Don't ever let the war take place.
Dan Barlow is a former United States Army Ranger and veteran of the Vietnam War. Joining the military was never a question when he was growing up.
I knew I was going to go in the military. It's just part of what we do in our family.
During his interview, Dan Barlow shared with us the challenges and rewards of leadership.
The greatest challenge was to make sure that the people that were under my command felt that I would never ask them to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. There wasn't a day when I went out there that I thought if I got wounded that my guys would pull back. I knew they'd come for me. Everybody knew that if somebody got hurt, we wouldn't leave him. The policy is no man's left behind.
When we interviewed our elders, many of us found out that our parents and grandparents were refugees of the Vietnam War. Dan Barlow's stories of this traumatic time remind us of the sacrifices that were made on our behalf.
This is what we saw. when people were forced out of their homes. They had to make the toughest decision in their life, leave their family and leave everything they own behind with hopes that you would be sitting here today in this environment.
Before the war, Mr. Tu was an engineer and a family man. In 1968, he joined the South Vietnamese Army Signal Corps. When the war ended, he was sent to a communist re-education camp, also known as a prisoner of war camp. Even through the hardship, Mr. Tu was proud to serve his country.
A good citizen is always proud to serve his country. And in the army, after the war, I was put into prison. And with 3 years in prison, I was allowed to go to the United States with my whole family.
Mr. Tu taught us that gratitude is the best thing a man can have. He is thankful for his family, freedom, and the United States of America. His hope is that one day Vietnam will experience freedom and human rights for everyone.
Mrs. Pham is not only a wife, a mother, and a grandmother. She's an accomplished artist. Married to Mr. Tu for 56 years, they experienced the hardship of war together. At the end of the war, the communists took their home, their business, and all their possessions. With Mr. Tu in a prisoner of war camp, she kept her family alive by planting potatoes and painting traditional dresses for the women in the villages.
Tôi chỉ có biết buôn bán và đi về thì đón con đi học, xong nấu ăn, rồi chồng tôi ở tù. Thành ra tôi chỉ biết đi thăm nuôi, tức là một năm đó họ cho có 3 lần thôi, thì tôi phải nấu, rồi tôi làm tất cả những cái đồ ăn mà nó giống như là nó khô, để đem cho mình.
We are grateful for Mrs. Pham's example of determination, strength, and creativity. And yes, Mrs. Pham still paints.
Andy McTeague is a U.S. Navy SEAL and veteran of the Vietnam War. During the day, he and his team played soccer with village children. During the night, they ran dangerous missions fighting the North Vietnamese. Survival depended upon staying calm and keeping a sense of humor.
Maintain calm and go through anything.
We wanted to know his advice on the origins and impact of war. His perspective challenged us to be responsible and aware as future voters.
When old men in suits send young men and women off to war, you have to know. So pay attention to who you vote for when you're old enough to vote.
Can you connect for us your sense of gratitude and the work you and Katie do today with other veterans?
I train service dogs for veterans, and what these dogs do is calm you down. What I was mentioning before, a lot of the veterans come back and they can't calm down. That's what these dogs do. They calm you down.
Finally, Andy McTeague reminds us of the heart of the Gratitude Project. We must never forget the pain and suffering of our elders. We must remain grateful for their sacrifices and the role the United States played in bringing our families to safety and freedom.
We couldn't bring everybody. And there's famous pictures of us taking people off the roof of the embassy and flying out to an aircraft carrier, and then all of a sudden we didn't have enough room on the aircraft carrier, and we are literally taking helicopters and pushing them off the side of the aircraft carrier to make more room for more of your grandparents. We couldn't save everybody, but we tried.
The Gratitude Project has given us an opportunity to make connections between historical events and the people who lived through them. The in-class interviews gave us a shared experience that bonded us together as a class. Individually, many of us were profoundly moved as we learned of our own family histories for the very first time.
When I interviewed my mom and dad, I learned of the terrible struggles my mom's family had to endure. As a baby, my mom was the youngest of 12 children. When they escaped Vietnam, my grandparents could only take half their children on the boat. Of those who remained behind, less than half survived. This year, I learned that gratitude has the power to bond. In my family, it bonded one generation to another. For this, I will always be grateful.
I always been proud of my family, but when I heard for the first time how my mommy was pregnant with me when she and my daddy walked to the United States, my heart overflowed. They did this great thing so that I will have a better life. I never loved my parents more. Gracias, mami y papi.
Gratitude has power to show inner strength we never knew we had. Those we interviewed had to face danger, accept grief, remain calm, hold on to faith, endure captivity, ignore racism, and in the face of extreme hardship, embrace creativity and resourcefulness. Gratitude is what separates humans from other living things. Ultimately, it is gratitude that gives us the freedom to live our best lives.